Futuria Fantasia, Spring 1940 ******* Futuria Fantasia Spring 1940 Volume 1. No. 4. Ray Bradbury, Editor 10 cents Contents Cover Hans Bock 3 Golgano and Slith Ray Bradbury 4 Hale Lyleman Row 7 The Phantoms J. E. Kelly Am 8 That's on the World State Hank Kuttner 9 Would You? J. H. Haggard 10 The Piper Ron Reynolds 14 The Itching Hour Damon Knight 15 The Flirt and Flag Hans V. Bock 16 Bo Caricature Hans V. Bock 17 9 Eva J. E. Kelly Am 18 Advertisements 19 Art Creatures from Lorelei Hans V. Bock Futuria Fantasia is published irregularly and gestated at the Dow Jones buying level of 10 cents an issue. The fifth issue will be scaring you around about Halloween. Send your dime to Editor Bradbury at #3054 half a watt 12th St. Los Angeles, Calif. Contributions will be happily fondled and sewed up in a green velvet sack. All stories submitted must be shaved and in the company of adult Martians. Gorgono and Slith, let us, by all means, be lucid, said Gorgono to Slith. Slith fluttered his reptile tongue and turned his morbid eyes to me. Yes, he said, let us, certainly be lucid, Bradbury. From now on use the contents page in Futuria Fantasia. And he spanked his tail slickly on my typewriter. I don't mind Slith so much, he's only a little anachronistic reptile, a descendant of happier days in dinosaurial dawndom. I never feared Slith. But Gorgono. Gorgono pierced me with his slanting green, clear eyes, heavy-lidded, extending one claw and attempting to keep it from shaking while his pointed ears stood up straight. A moment before he had been hunting fleas in the fertile hair that clothed his muscular limbs, but now he was serious. So very serious it frightened me. And when the thunder-voiced, evil-eyed, shaggy-haired and monstrous Gorgono reclined on the shelf over my head, saliva drooling with silent precision from his pendulous lips, and gave orders, I hastened to obey them. Gorgono was the voice of the critics, the ogre of opinion, the harsh guttural commandment of style and fashion. And now Gorgono had grumbled, number your pages from now on, Mr. Bradbury, or else your number'll be up. Why, gad, man, the last issue of Futuria Fantasia I didn't know if I was coming or going, the way you aeroglyphed the sheets. And I might add, you're going to use even margins from here on in. Okay, I said, slinking with flushed visage behind my stencils. But from now on Futuria Fantasia will be 10 cents straight an issue. 10 cents straight. Agreed, snapped Gorgono, if you are neater. But you must be new. Neoteric, different. Then I flashed them the newly processed cover done by Bock. Gods, bellowed Gorgono. That is stupendous. A fine beginning, mortal, a very fine beginning. Slith agreed by pounding vigorously on the table with his scaly rump. And wait until you read Monroe's yarn, I jubilantly exclaimed. It's not science fiction, but it's certainly a fine bit of story. Yes, said Gorgono, this issue looks much better. Glad to see you've added 2 new authors, Damon Knight and Joe Kellyam from Astounding. I'll have to remind the fans to send in their dimes for this issue and perhaps support you a little more than they have with letters. But we'll see about that. He got up, stretched, yawned, and vanished in a belching ball of flame. Yes, said Slith, we'll see. And he too vanished with a sharp pop. All was quiet. I went back to my stencils and my opium. The editor. Hail. By Lyle Monroe, how dare you make such a suggestion? The state physician doggedly stuck by his position. I would not make it, sire, if your life were not at stake. There is no other surgeon in the fatherland who can transplant a pituitary gland but Dr. Lanz. You will operate. The medico shook his head. You would die, leader. My skill is not adequate. And unless the operation takes place at once, you will certainly die. The leader stormed about the apartment. He seemed about to give way to one of the girlish bursts of anger that even the interstate clique feared so much. Surprisingly, he capitulated. Bring him here, he ordered. Dr. Lanz faced the leader with inherent dignity, a dignity and presence that 3 years of protective custody had been unable to shake. The pallor and gauntness of the concentration camp lay upon him, but his race was used to oppression. I see, he said. Yes, I see. I can perform that operation. What are your terms? Terms. The leader was aghast. Terms, you filthy swine. You are being given a chance to redeem in part the sins of your race. The surgeon raised his brows. Do you not think I know that you would not have sent for me had there been any other course available to you? Obviously, my services have become valuable. You'll do as you are told. You and your kind are lucky to be alive. Nevertheless, I shall not operate without my fee. I said you were lucky to be alive. The tone was an open threat. Lanz spread his hands. Well, I am an old man. The leader smiled. True. But I am informed that you have a family. The surgeon moistened his lips. His Emma, they would hurt his Emma, and his little Rose. But he must be brave, as Emma would have him be. He was playing for high stakes, for all of them. They cannot be worse off dead, he answered firmly, than they are now. It was many hours before the leader was convinced that Lanz could not be budged. He should have known, the surgeon had learned fortitude at his mother's breast. What is your fee? A passport for myself and my family. Good riddance. My personal fortune restored to me, very well. To be paid in gold before I operate. The leader started to object automatically, then checked himself quickly. Let the presumptuous fool think so. It could be corrected after the operation. And the operation to take place in a hospital on foreign soil. Preposterous. I must insist. You do not trust me. Lanz stared straight back into his eyes without replying. The leader struck him, hard, across the mouth. The surgeon made no effort to avoid the blow, but took it, with no change of expression. "You are willing to go through with it, Samuel?" The younger man looked at Dr. Lanz without fear as he answered, "Certainly, doctor. I cannot guarantee that you will recover. The leader's pituitary gland is diseased. When I exchange it for your healthy one, your younger one may not be able to stand up under it. That is the chance you take. Besides, a complete transplanting has never been done before." "I know it, but I'm out of the concentration camp." "Yes. Yes, that is true. And if you do recover, you are free. And I will attend you myself, until you are well enough to travel." Samuel smiled. "It will be a positive joy to be sick in a country where there are no concentration camps." "Very well, then. Let us commence." They returned to the silent, nervous group at the other end of the room. Grimly the money was counted out, every penny that the famous surgeon had laid claim to before the leader had decided that men of his religion had no need for money. Lanz placed half of the gold in a money belt and strapped it around his waist. His wife concealed the other half somewhere about her ample person. It was an hour and 20 minutes later that Lanz put down the last instrument, nodded to the surgeons assisting him, and commenced to strip off operating gloves. He took one last look at his two patients before he left the room. They were anonymous under the sterile gowns and dressings. Had he not known, he could not have guessed dictator from oppressed. Come to think of it, with the exchange of those two tiny glands there was something of the dictator in his victim and something of the victim in the dictator. Dr. Lanz returned to the hospital later in the day, after seeing his wife and daughter safely settled in a first-class hotel. It was an extravagance, in view of his uncertain prospects as a refugee, but they had enjoyed no luxuries for years back there. He didn't consider it his home country, and it was justified this once. He inquired at the office of the hospital for his second patient. The clerk looked puzzled. "But he is not here." "Not here? Why, no. He was moved at the same time as His Excellency, back to your country." Lanz did not argue. The trick was obvious, it was too late to do anything for poor Samuel. He thanked his God that he had had the foresight to place himself and his family beyond the reach of such brutal injustice before operating. He thanked the clerk and left. The leader recovered consciousness at last. His brain was confused, then he recalled the events before he had gone to sleep. The operation, it was over. And he was alive. He had never admitted to anyone how terribly frightened he had been at the prospect. But he had lived, he had lived. He groped around for the bell cord, and failing to find it, gradually forced his eyes to focus on the room. What outrageous nonsense was this? This was no sort of a room for the leader to convalesce in. He took in the dirty whitewashed ceiling, and the bare wooden floor with distaste. And the bed. It was no more than a cot. He shouted. Someone came in, a man wearing a uniform of a trooper in his favorite corps. He started to give him the tongue lashing of his life, before having him arrested. But he was cut short. "Cut out the racket, you unholy pig!" At first he was too astounded to answer, then he shrieked, "Stand at attention when you address the leader. Salute!" The trooper looked dumbfounded at the sick man, so totally different in appearance from the leader, then guffawed. He stepped to the cot, struck a pose with his right arm raised in salute. He carried a rubber truncheon in it. "Hail to our leader," he shouted, and brought his arm down smartly. The truncheon crashed into the sick man's cheekbone. Another trooper came in to see what the noise was while the first was still laughing at his witticism. "What's up, John? Say, you'd better not handle that monkey too rough, he's still carried on the hospital list." He glanced casually at the bloody face. "Him? Didn't you know?" John pulled him to one side and whispered. The second man's eyes widened, he grinned. "So? They don't want him to get well, eh? Well, I could use a little exercise this morning, let's get Fats," the other suggested. "He's always so very amusing with his ideas." "Good idea." He stepped to the door and bellowed, "Hey, Fats!" They didn't really start in on him until Fats was there to help. The End the Phantoms by Joseph E. Kellerman. All day they played among the purple flowers that lay like frozen flames upon the lawn, or dreamed within the shadows of the towers whose turret tops were painted as the dawn. Bright was the garden, peace went everywhere, there was no breath of movement nor any sound save butterflies that clove the heavy air, or when the bright fruit dropped slowly to the ground. Then the flowers drooped, from sliver thorns that tore. Too soon the sun had died in amber smoke, and frightened now but silent as before the phantoms watched the garden change its cloak. Great sable moths flew out, and one by one the towers melted with the fallen sun. This is a plug for the Voice of the Imagination. Price 10C from box 6475 Mets de Los Angeles, Cal. Asterisk, the art, Widner and otherwise, is a bit better. Thoughts on the World State by Henry Kuttner. The hideous Mr. Kuttner returns with an equally hideous tale. We absolutely guarantee this story will induce nausea and slight regurgitation. Lead on, McKuttner. I have, as usual, been brooding over the intricacies of modern civilization. It seems to me that life is a peculiarly futile business. This mood of mine may, perhaps, be attributed to my recent tragic encounter with a horse at the corner of 42nd and Broadway. I shall not dwell upon that incident, save to mention briefly that horses should, at least, be careful of what they eat. One never knows the result of the most innocent action, and that, by imperceptible degrees, brings me to the subject of this article, playing fair with fans, or fantastic decency. It has been said, and very loudly, too, that fans fight a lot. Well, I do not care to refute that. I happen to know that a Californian fan, a Mr. Ackerman, is in the habit of knocking down visitors and kicking them in strategic places. The question naturally arises, does fantasy lead to sadism? I am reminded of the remarkable case of Scarlett God, an ardent fan whose tininess led to her being occasionally called by the diminutive, or Fanny. This may seem somewhat confusing at first glance. Let us, therefore, go hastily on to the next paragraph. I should, perhaps, mention a mysterious white-bearded gentleman called Tabith the Damned, or Toby, since he played a significant role in the incident. It was he who listened, toying at his beard idly, while Scarlett feverishly upheld her position against the onslaughts of her foes. Just what caused the argument I cannot recall at the moment. Nor does it matter especially. I believe it had something to do with Scarlett's being locked out of the sanctuary, or washroom, by previous arrivals. Mocked, scorned, and jeered at, Scarlett at first said nothing. Ultimately, however, she lost her temper and cursed her enemies roundly. I would, she observed with feeling, sell my soul to the devil in order to obtain vengeance. At this moment the white-bearded gentleman smiled unpleasantly and vanished. Simultaneously lightning struck the sanctuary and demolished it, to the natural discomfiture of the occupants. Laughing in a triumphant manner, Scarlett departed. But the seeds of doom were already sown within her soul. Not until she was soaked to the skin did she realize the ghastly and hideous truth. Then, looking up, she saw that above her hovered a small black cloud, from which rain was steadily descending. As she realized the terror of her position, black horror flooded the girl. She had become allergic to weather. Well, after that, of course, matters got steadily worse. She was driven from home, after blasting the bathtub and spoiling a valuable Angora kitten. It was later made into a muff, but moths got into it. That, however, is another story, and not an especially good one. Poor Scarlett was excluded from all fan gatherings. Sunstroke and eclipse were her constant companions. She came with the deluge and was gone with the wind. The girl was utterly friendless. She roamed wildly here and there, haggard, careworn and miserable, in a tattered gown made from the covers of amazing stories. At night people could hear her moaning under their windows, and they huddled closer to the fire, whispering, "Fetch aft the rum, Darby. Evil walks abroad tonight and I feel my soul shudder in me. No soda, thanks." Hopeless and forlorn, Scarlett stowed away on a schooner out for Hong Kong. But she was discovered, cursed for a Jonah, and set ashore on a cannibal isle in the South Seas. It was a blessing in disguise. The natives mistook her for a goddess. They were used to bad weather, and did not attribute the altered climate to Scarlett. So they garlanded her with lilies and made her their queen. And she reigned happily ever after. By J. Harvey Haggard. Would you stroll with me, my loved one, neath the pale Venusian moon, where its misty orb goes drifting, waning, darling, all too soon. Would you gaze into the rainbow where the lunar moonbeams play? Could it be you'd softly answer yes, for all those things I pray? If it's so, my darling, kick me, for I'd surely be a ninny, making love by Venus moonlight, when, you see, there isn't any. The piper Ron Reynolds Lord. He's there again. He's there. Look, the old man croaked, jabbing a calloused finger at the burial hill. Old piper again. As crazy as a loon. Every year that way. The Martian boy at the feet of the old man stirred his thin reddish feet in the soil and affixed his large green eyes upon the burial hill where the piper stood. Why does he do that? Asked the boy. Ah! The old man's leathery face rumpled into a maze of wrinkles. He's crazy, that's what. Stands up there piping on his music from sunset until dawn. The thin piping sounds squealed in the dusk, echoed back from the low hills, were lost in melancholy silence, fading. Then louder, higher, insanely, crying with shrill voice. The piper was a tall, gaunt man, face as pale and wan as Martian moons, eyes electrical purple, standing against the soft of the dusking heaven, holding his pipe to his lips, playing. The piper, a silhouette, a symbol, a melody. Where did the piper come from? Asked the Martian boy. From Venus. The old man took out his pipe and filled it. Oh, some 20 years ago or more, on the projectile with the terrestrians. I arrived on the same ship, coming from Earth, we shared a double seat together. What is his name? Again the boyish, eager voice. I can't remember. I don't think I ever knew, really. A vague rustling sound came into existence. The piper continued playing, paying no heed to it. From the darkness, across the star-jeweled horizon, came mysterious shapes, creeping, creeping. Mars is a dying world, the old man said. Nothing ever happens of much gravity. The piper, I believe, is an exile. The stars trembled like reflections in water, dancing with the music. An exile. The old man continued. Something like a leper. They called him the Brilliant. He was the epitome of all Venerian culture until the Earthmen came with their greedy incorporations and licentious harlots. The Earthlings outlawed him, sent him here to Mars to live out his days. Mars is a dying world, repeated the boy. A dying world. How many Martians are there, sir? The old man chuckled. I guess maybe you are the last pure Martian alive, boy. But there are millions of others. Where do they live? I have never seen them. You are young. You have much to see, much to learn. Where do they live? Out there, beyond the mountains, beyond the Dead Sea bottoms, over the horizon and to the north, in the caves, far back in the subterrane. Why? Why? Now that's hard to say. They were a brilliant race once upon a time. But something happened to them, hybrid them. They are unintelligent creatures now, cruel beasts. Does Earth own Mars? The little boy's eyes were riveted upon the glowing planet overhead, the green planet. Yes, all of Mars. Earth has 3 cities here, each containing 1,000 people. The closest city is a mile from here. Down the road, a group of small metal bubble-like buildings. The men from Earth move about among the buildings like ants enclosed in their space suits. They are miners. With their huge machines they rip open the bowels of our planet and dig out our precious lifeblood from the mineral arteries. Is that all? That is all. The old man shook his head sadly. No culture, no art, no purpose. Greedy, hopeless earthlings. And the other 2 cities, where are they? One is up the same cobbled road 5 miles, the third is further still by some 500 miles. I am glad I live here with you, alone. The boy's head nodded sleepily. I do not like the men from Terra. They are despoilers. They have always been. But someday, said the old man, they will meet their doom. They have blasphemed enough, have they? They cannot own planets as they have and expect nothing but greedy luxury for their sluggishly squat bodies. Someday. His voice rose high, in tempo and pitch with the piper's wild music. Wild music, insane music, stirring music. Music to stir the savage into life. Music to affect man's destiny. Wild-eyed piper on the hill, crying out your rigaudons, bring the savages to kill 'neath the waning Martian moons. What is that? Asked the boy. A poem, said the old man. A poem I have written in the last few days. I feel something is going to happen very soon. The piper's song is growing more insistent every night. At first, 20 years ago, he played on only a few nights of every year, but now, for the last 3 years he has played until dawn every night of every autumn when the planet is dying. Bring the savages. The boy sat up. What savages? There. Along the star-glimmered mountain tops a vast clustering herd of black, murmuring, advancing. The music screamed higher and higher. Piper, pipe that song again. So he piped, I wept to hear. More of the poem, asked the boy. Not my poem, but a poem from Earth some 70 years ago. I learned it in school. Music is strange. The little boy's eyes were scintillant with thought. It warms me inside. This music makes me angry. Why? Because it is music with a purpose. What purpose? We shall know by dawn. Music is the language of all things, intelligent or not, savage or educated civilian. This piper knows his music as a god knows his heaven. For 20 years he has composed his hymn of action and hate, and finally, tonight perhaps, the finale will be reached. At first, many years ago, when he played, he received no answer from the subterrane, but the murmur of gibbering voices. 5 years ago he lured the voices and the creatures from their caves to the mountain tops. Tonight, for the first time, the herd of black will spill over the trails toward our hovel, toward the road, toward the cities of man. Music screaming, higher, faster, insanely, sending shock after macabre shock through night air, loosening the stars from their riveted stations. The piper stretched high, 6 feet or more, upon his hillock, swaying back and forth, his thin shape attired in brown cloth. The black mass on the mountain came down like amoebic tentacles, met and coalesced, muttering and mumbling. "Go inside and hide," said the old man. "You are young, you must live to propagate the new Mars. Tonight is the end of the old, tomorrow begins the new. It is death for the men of earth. Higher still and higher. Death. They come to overrun the earthlings, destroy their cities, take their projectiles. Then, in the ships of man, to earth. Turn about. Revolution and revenge. A new civilization. When monsters usurp men and men's greediness crumbles at his demise. Shriller, faster, higher, insanely tempoed. The piper, the brilliant one, he who has waited for years for this night. Back to Venus to reinstall the glory of his civilization. The return of art to humanity. But they are savages, these unpure Martians, the boy cried. Men are savages. I am ashamed of being a man, the old man said, tremblingly. Yes, these creatures are savages, but they will learn, these brutes, with music. Music in many forms, music for peace, music for love, music for hate and music for death. The piper and his brood will set up a new cosmos. He is immortal. Now, hurrying, muttering up the road, the first cluster of black things reminiscent of men. A strange sharp odor in the air. The piper, from his hillock, walking down the road, over the cobbles, to the city. Piper, pipe that song again, cried the old man. Go and kill and live again. Bring us love and art again. Piper, pipe the song. I weep. Then, hide, child, hide quickly. Before they come. Hurry. And the child, crying, hurried to the small house and hid himself through the night. Swirling, jumping, running, leaping, gambling, crying, the new humanity surged to man's cities, his rockets, his mines. The piper's song. Stars shuddered. Winds stilled. Night birds sang no songs. Echoes murmured only the voices of the ones who advanced, bringing new understanding. The old man, caught in the whirlpool of ebon, was swept down, screaming. Then up the road, by the awful thousands, vomiting out of hills, sprawling from caves, curling, huge fingers of beasts, around and about and down to the man's cities. Sighing, leaping up, voices and destruction. Rockets across the sky. Guns. Death. And finally, in the pale advancement of dawn, the memory, the echoing of the old man's voice. And the little boy arose to start afresh a new world with a new mate. Echoing, the old man's voice, piper, pipe that song again." So he piped. I wept to hear. A new day dawned. The end, the itching hour by Damon Knight. Mind you, I don't believe the story, myself. It was obvious, from the start, that the old man was mad. Besides, I was stinko at the time, and I may not have got some of the details right. But in its essentials, the story still sticks in my mind. I can see the old man now, with a pair of my best socks around his neck, moaning and wheezing and spitting on the floor, and in between times telling his strange story. Of course, the whole thing was fantastic. The old loon had probably escaped from some nut factory. And yet, no, the old man was booby. And yet, the night it happened, I was sitting in my study in my white silk Russian lounging robe, smoking a nargile or Indian water pipe and throwing darts at a signed photograph of Sally Rand. I'd just pinked her neatly in the gluteus maximus, when I was startled by a crash of glass, and turned around to see an aged man tottering carefully through the remains of my French windows. At once the chill of horror gripped me. Gripped. Unable to move, I stared speechlessly as the old man went directly to my chest of drawers and fumbled within, the overhead light throwing his face into somber shadow. Blowing his nose on one of my dress shirts, he grumbled to himself about the starch and selected a pair of lamb's wool socks and tied them around his neck. This done, he hobbled over to a chair facing mine, sat down, pulled his tattered undershirt, which for some reason he was wearing as a shawl, more closely around his thin shoulders, stared reproachfully at me, shivering at the icy blast that came in through the shattered windows. "There's a draft in here, and you know what you can do about it," he complained. "Yes, there is. I managed to get out." He nodded, satisfied. "I thought there was," he said. Then, dragging his chair closer, he leaned over and, grasping me firmly by the lapels, said pleasantly, "Ipswich on the Amscray, don't you think?" Half stifled with terror, I gasped, yes." At once his manner was transformed. Drawing himself up indignantly, he sneered, "That's a lie. That's what they all say, the sniveling hypocrites. They know it's a lie." Then he drew nearer once again. "But," he said, "I'm going to tell you my story anyway. You have a kind face. And I just don't have any at all." He raised the rim of his hat and I saw it was true. He had no face. Gibbering, I tried to get away, to flee or scram, but it was too late. Taking a firmer grip on my lapels, and standing heavily on my foot, the old man began his story. "You may not believe it," he began, "but I, too, was once a carefree young fan like yourself. From morning till night I thought of nothing but eating, sleeping, sex, and my fan mag, puke. In the evening I would stay up till morning, splashing happily in my hectoinks, and turning out pages and pages of material like mad. And at last I'd go to bed, tired but happy, knowing I had done my duty as an honest fan. And then, one day, it happened. By some unfortunate chance, I got a little double-strength purple hectograph ink on my face. Noticing it in the mirror the next morning, as I was trying to decide whether to shave this week or not, I took a washcloth and tried to rub off the stain. Alas, poor fool that I was, I recked not of the consequences. With hard rubbing, I managed to get some of the ink off, but when I went on rubbing, to remove the rest, the ink I had rubbed off was transferred back to my face. And so it went, the adamant ink going from washrag to face and from face back to washrag. The ink, as I have said, was double-strength purple undiluted, and suffered nothing in the process. But something had to give way. The washrag, by an unhappy coincidence, was a brand new one, and my face was some years old. Only one thing could have happened. It did. Thus, shedding a tear on the carpet, the old stranger ended his weird tale. Getting slowly to his feet, he drew his hat down over his eyes once more, tied his socks around his neck more tightly, and shuffled off toward the shattered windows. At the sill, he turned, faced the room, and made one last parting shot, ere he vanished in the gloom. "Dogs have fleas," he screamed. "But sometimes I wonder. I've never seen by Hansbock, I've never seen a Flirtenflag. I've heard that it's a Martian dog. But science fiction has romanced that the Martian race is much advanced, so thus my reasoning should be, has a Flirtenflag ever seen me? Have you tried reading Freehafers Polaris? Hans V. Bock, artist as seen by Hans V. Bock, critic. Hans Bock, born in Seattle. Age, 23. Arrived in New York in August, 1939. Is doing interiors and covers for Weird Tales and several other well-known fantasy magazines. 9 Eva by J. E. Kelly. They say the bittern and the cormorant have nested in the upper lintels there. The wind builds flowers of dust upon the air, lifting and falling, slow and hesitant. Within the crumbling temples beasts have led, eyeless the windows, broken the terraces, no laughter breaks the silence. The palaces are weathered and the cedar work is bed. If this be glory's wage, then let me trust the fragile things that are not built of might, the lovely things that leave no trace when gone, the rose that swiftly turns into the dust, beauty that blazed a moment, or a night of golden stars forgotten with the dawn. Do you want fans to point at you and say he's behind the times, he writes with an old black and red ribbon? Or, well, he uses one of those swell fantastic green and brown ribbons like El Korshak and Tom Wright and Russ Hopkins and Ackerman and Alchemist and Yerk and Free Hater and, look at the record, 3 dozen sold to date. $1 PPD from Moroho, BX 6475 Metster, Los Angeles, Cal. Doherty's 2 Sensations Wald Doherty, 1039 W39 Los Angeles, Cal, both 415C. Shangri-La 10C The Rocket 10C La Zombie, The Nickel Nifty, The Flower of Fandom. From Bob Tucker, P.O. Box, 260 Bloomington, Illinois. Get the lead out of your shoe, Son, and send for that copy of Snide, the Thud and Blunder Mag, 10c from Damon Knight, 803 Columbia, Hood River or The Mercury is Rising. Send for this temperature-raising news mag of Pacifica East Palava, only 5ca copy from Tom Wright, 1140 Bush Street Martinez, Cardiff. Companion, The Comet, costs but 10c from same publisher, and will be sure to please you. Box Creatures of Lawlia Local League Life, Guy Amory. The roads must roll. And the road rolls right into Campbell's office, and rolling right back comes a check to Mr. Robert Heinlein, member of the LASFL, whose novel is currently in Astounding Now. Heinlein's yarn about roads deals with a culture where roads are the most important things to mankind, and he just sold it to John W., for which, bravo, Bob. Story will appear with above title or as Road Town, all depending on which side of the bed Campbell gets up from. How's about a letter of criticism, Mr. Swisher? We would like to know what you think of FF. Thanks. The Editor's Scientofan 15c Jan-February. Terrific cover. The only magazine of its size for fans, slick covers. Material by Tucker, Hart, Sullivan and others. Horrors Seller, feature-length fiction by Harry Warner Jr. Long fan interest article by Loans. 10 interesting depths. Publication profusely illustrated. Special supplement, Mercury, Controversial Matters. A smashing publication, 1836, 39th Ave, Oakland, Cardiff. Futuria Fantasia, an LASFL publication. Ray Bradbury, editor, 3054 1-2 W12th St. Los Angeles, Cardiff. Return postage guaranteed. Asterisk 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 end of the Project Gutenberg ebook Futuria Fantasia, Spring 1940 asterisk 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 updated editions will replace the previous one, the old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose, such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start, Full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works. By using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg, you agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Trademark Symbol Electronic Works 1.0. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the Foundation or PGLAF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, Check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg, 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. 1.e.5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. 1.e.6. You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, If you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg trademark symbol website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7. Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8. You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works provided that you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing, or by email, within 30 days of receipt that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. 1.e.9. If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f1.f.1. Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2 Limited warranty. Disclaimer of damages, except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the Foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3 Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4 Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5 Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6 Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the Foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the Foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, and C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers, including obsolete, old, middle-aged and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg trademark symbol's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg trademark symbol and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a non-profit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's IN or Federal Tax Identification Number is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, UT 84116. 801-596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact. Section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment, including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways, including checks, online payments and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg Trademark Symbol Electronic Works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the US unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, we do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg trademark symbol, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks.